This afternoon, we called this press conference this afternoon so that the Mecklenburg County Commission candidates, the Republican candidates, wanted to lay out our pledge to the citizens of Mecklenburg County about what we plan to do once elected. We have some other topics we would like to discuss briefly after we give out our pledge information, but I would ask candidate Dan Ramirez, former county commissioner, to start with the first part of our pledge.
Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate your presence here, and this is something that we developed during the last few months, and it has the approval of all candidates for the Republican Party, and this is our pledge to the citizens of Mecklenburg County. And the initial pledge is that we pledge to govern within our means and not abuse the authority to raise or impose taxes. We pledge to reinstate respect and trust in county government by being open with all commission business not restricted by law. We pledge to identify and eliminate wasteful spending in every county department, to outsource any county service that can be done more efficiently and cost-effectively by outside provider, and to cease unnecessary service and duplication of services. We pledge to establish better working relationship with the 6 municipalities within the county and reduce duplication of services that waste tax dollars. We pledge to ensure that persons given non-emergency services and funding from the county are eligible to those services. We pledge not to forget our Mecklenburg County veterans who have given so much to ensure our liberties and freedom we enjoy today. And now we go to this.
I should have said this before. We have 3 points that we would like to make, and Mr. Ramirez just talked about fiscal accountability and governance. I'll talk about public safety, and Corey Thompson, the candidate, will talk about education. As far as public safety, we pledge to work diligently to ensure that our citizens not only feel safe in their respective communities, but are safe. We pledge to work closely with the sheriff, police, and our court system to ensure adequate resources to arrest, detain, and prosecute offenders. We pledge to work closely with all law enforcement agencies to identify and remove criminal aliens from our county who are primarily responsible for importing drugs and gang violence into our county. We pledge as a board to pressure the North Carolina legislature to provide adequate funding for our district attorney and court system.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Thompson, and I would like to begin by thanking you for coming. I also want to thank Dan and Jim for their years of leadership here in Mecklenburg County in numerous capacities, and it's a real honor and a privilege to be sitting up here with them today and running alongside them. The topic of education, which is important to all the families across Mecklenburg County, we pledge the following. We pledge to support our Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system by providing reasonable funding to accomplish what our citizens expect for the education of their children. We pledge to support Central Piedmont Community College and their education efforts to train and retrain our future workforce here locally. We pledge, as a board, to hold the CMS Board of Education accountable for resources provided by the taxpayers and expect positive results for the financial support provided. Now, that pledge also includes the leadership of CMS as well. And last, we pledge as a board to continue to encourage the Board of Education to privatize segments of the CMS system, including food services, maintenance, transportation, and health services, potentially resulting in massive tax dollar savings. Thank you.
That is our pledge to the citizens and the voters of Mecklenburg County. Does anyone here with the media have any questions about any of this? Did you get a copy of it? Did you get a copy? I'll give you a copy. April, do you
Just
read
want to
it?
clarify a
Okay.
point. You said this is the pledge of all of the Republican
Right,
candidates on the
right,
county commission.
Right.
That is correct, yes.
And can you talk a little bit about on which of these points do you think you differ most from the majority that's currently in power?
Probably most of it. You know, we are committed as a group of candidates running for county commission to make sure that we can afford to continue as a county, that we don't tax our citizens out of business, and we can't raise county revenue by reducing private sector revenue by taxing it, because that serves a purpose of putting us out of business. If we tax our business people and our citizens out of business, then we're going to be out of business soon. I think the accountability part, and that gives me an opportunity, April, thank you for doing that, to lead into the next part, is accountability. We strongly believe that there should be accountability in county government. We believe that the county should be run as a business. And 3 days running last week, and I cut these things out of the paper and laminate them, there were 3 articles in the paper. We're not out looking for things to criticize the current Democratic board about. They seem to appear out of nowhere. County cuts ties to Open Door after audit. Concerns raised about record keeping at nonprofit that serves chronically homeless. That was last week. This was the next day on Saturday. Audit is set of county's oversight procedures. A move prompted by federal rebuke of county monitoring of housing nonprofit. Well, the first article talked about there's a potential that the county could get a $500,000 fine for failing to monitor federal grant, one federal grant. And then the last article that I cut out was Friday. County cited for poor oversight of nonprofit. HUD faults housing program that handled more than $1.7 million over 2 years. I'm here to tell you that managing a federal grant or overseeing a federal grant is not rocket science. I did it. When I was with the police department, I was over investigations for years. We had federal grants coming in to deal with everything from drug enforcement to targeting specific criminals. I was responsible for making sure that the federal grant was kept up to date. All they want is to know where the money went, what are you doing with it, in a timely manner. That's not hard. We had grants continuously when I was sheriff that we managed and oversaw, and we never had a problem. If this is the kind of thing that's in the paper that has been made public, what has not been made public? And my concern and my challenge to the current Board of Commissioners is to have a complete audit of every county department by an outside auditing firm. Now, that's going to be expensive, but I can guarantee you from my experience, and I'll give you a little sidebar, I had an audit with the Sheriff's Office in 1998 that I demanded in 1994, and as of today, we still do not have the final audit report from 1998. I can promise you that if an outside auditing firm was to do an audit of completely of the county, every department, you would find enough waste and fraud to cover the cost of the audit. I think this has been brought up before to no avail, and I assure you, once we're elected, that's one of the first orders of business we're going to take up to see how much waste and fraud there really is in county government and who is not being accountable for not only federal grants, but anything else to deal with county business. Dan, did you have any comments?
I just wanted to reiterate on our pledge number 3, in which we said we pledge to identify and eliminate wasteful spending in every county government, to outsource any county service that can be done more efficiently and cost effectively by an outside provider. And that is the case. When you have the county and the county administration doing their own audits, doing their own business, so to speak, it is very difficult to separate what is, I wouldn't say fraud, but what is efficiency in the administration of the county dollars, our dollars, taxpayers' dollars, than when an outside agency is doing it, because they have no personal interest, no inclination to hide or to skip over things that are not done correctly. And the problem that we have had in the past is that it is taken like it is business as usual. The county has overspent the tax dollars that we have given them, and that's why we have a deficit nowadays. And the problem is that they want, not this year, but next year for sure, we're going to have a tax increase to cover all that. And if I want to regress a little bit about how they did the budget this year, they went ahead and guesstimated that we were going to have $9.5 million more in revenue. From where, we don't know. They just picked that number out of the air so they can spend that money this year for their budget.
I think it's also important, vitally important, that the families and the residents of Mecklenburg County understand one important thing. And that is that the current leadership of Mecklenburg County is failing them right now. The responsibility for all of these things stops at the desk of Harry Jones, the county manager. It also stops at the desk of County Commission Chairman Jennifer Roberts. And if Chairman Roberts and Manager Harry Jones are not following through in a capacity that is effective and productive for the citizens of this county, then it's time for this county to seek new leadership. And that's what we're here today to pledge to the citizens of this county to do on their behalf. Thank you.
Any questions on any of that? One last thing I wanted to mention, and of course Dan and Corey don't have any part in this. There was a Black Political Caucus forum Saturday evening that I could not attend because I had had a prior commitment for months. But a friend of mine called me and said, "You wouldn't believe what Commissioner Dan Murray said about you personally in front of the podium." And I said, "Really, what did he say?" And he said that Commissioner Murray made a comment that there's a guy running for county commission that used to be one of us, but he certainly is not now. And that I want you folks to know that when he was sheriff of Mecklenburg County, he implemented a program that specifically targeted people of color. I was speechless. And he's obviously speaking of the 287G program, which the only people I've ever targeted in my law enforcement career have been lawbreakers and criminals. And coming from an individual that is probably one of the most educated people on the board, I'm very disappointed to hear this from him, especially when he gave me a campaign contribution the last time I ran. And in my entire career, he never came to me once and said, "This concerns me." This shows an air of desperation that I figure he has some concern about something, but I'm just really disappointed in him that he would say that in front of a group like that, knowing that's a complete and total false statement. And I think that'll about do it for today.
Yeah,
Unless
I
anybody has
guess
any questions.
my last statement on that is to reinstate what Corey was saying, and that is that really the Board of County Commissioners are the individuals that set policy, and everybody follows it. And the policies that they have set in the past few years are failed policies, at least from my point of view, from the point of view of the fiscal responsibility that we have towards the members of this community. So we need to take corrective action, and we are intending to do our best to make it right.
Residents of Mecklenburg County and citizens of this county deserve better than what they've been getting. We pledge to provide something better in the next 2 years if elected.